And in Isaiah 34, it says, the Lord, it says, come near you nations and hear. And he repeats it again. Listen to me, nations. For the Lord has an issue. He has indignation against all the nations who are at ease because of what they did to his people. Now the people in the nations, there are people of God in the nations who are repenting for the sins against the Jewish people. In one of the books, in the Purim book, I believe, there's a documentation of the Evian conference where there was very, very few nations that would take in any of the refugees, the Jewish European refugees, before the Holocaust. And they had Nazi, not witnesses, not spies, representatives there. And when they saw that there was very, very few nations, I wish I could remember the nations, I'm sure Holland will maybe be one, there was a few that were willing to take some in, but the rest said, we can't. Or they would have to show a baptismal certificate first. And they all, I mean, I'm talking Canada too. I'm not just saying the US. We all have a spotted record. And the Lord says, what you have done will return upon your own head. And that God has an issue with the nations, because also we know that in the end, all the nations will turn against Israel and against Jerusalem. We know that's going to happen. We already see it happening. So you are the remnant that God has chosen by his grace to reveal the truth to you, so that you will stand firm. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy for any of us, but we've got to start looking with, not with eyes, not natural eyes, but with a view of eternity. We have to start to ask the Lord to prepare us. Ask him to prepare us so we would be willing, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to go into the fiery furnace. So we would be willing, like Daniel, to go into the lion's den and say, our God will save us, but even if he doesn't, we will not bow. We will not take the mark. We will not forsake Israel. Amen. There's so much I want to share. It's like, you know, I'm standing here and I'm saying, I could go this way and this way and this way, but we'd be here all night. You know, I've been reading lately about David and Goliath, that favorite story that the kids all love, we all love, about David. And the Lord was speaking to me today about David. And when David was just a youth, he was ruddy and he was a good looker. And he saw that all of Israel was afraid. Here was a Philistine. Now, some people think that the Palestinians are descended from the Philistines, but that's just a rumor, all right? I don't know if that's true or not. But here was the Philistines. And you see, they're talking about Israel being the oppressor and being the aggressor. But if we look at reality, if we can take a reality check for a minute, Israel is a tiny, tiny little piece of land surrounded by hostile Arab neighbors that have probably 99.9% of the land, that are determined to push Israel into the sea and destroy every last Jew alive. And by the way, they don't like Christians either, or Americans. They are burning the flag of America over there in the Arab countries. When they march, they're against Israel, they're against America. Okay, so let's get it straight. Who is the aggressor? Who is the oppressor? Okay, there's the big one, the giant, and there's the little one, and that's David. David's the little, ruddy, good-looking one. And the Philistine, David was the only one who said, I'll fight him. God help me fight the lion. I read it again, and I was shocked to find out that he actually grabbed him by the beard. How could a boy grab a lion by the beard and sock him one and kill him? I don't know, but he said God helped him. God did it. That's what we're like, right? Anything good, anything that we do, we might like to think, did it, but it's God. It's the power of God. It's only the grace of God. And he did it to a bear, and he says, God help me do the same thing to the Philistine. His brothers misunderstood him. They maligned him. Oh yeah, we know what you're up to. We know how conceited you are. You know, I mean, but his heart was right. And he stood for God. And the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And then the Philistine said to David, come to me and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. And then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of Yehovah Tzevaot, the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. And God is the God of the armies of Israel. There is no way Israel could have survived up to this point unless God was the captain of the army, whom you have defied. And you see, if anybody is against Israel, they're against God. There is no other way. There is no in between. They're defying God. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. This was the purpose. There is a redemptive purpose. And I believe that the day is coming that a David will arise. That day is coming. Yeshua is Mashiach ben David. You know, when the blind man cried out, Son of David, Son of David. Now, he wouldn't shut up. Son of David. And David will rise up and defeat the enemies of Israel. He will set his feet on the Mount of Olives, and he will defeat the enemies of Israel and anyone who is in alliance with the enemies of Israel. And what can we do for our Christian brothers and sisters who are in alliance with the enemies of Israel? What can we do for them? You know the wedding hall that collapsed? I tell this story quite often because I believe it was a strong prophetic picture to Israel and to the church. Because you see, Israel is the bride of God. In Jeremiah 3, he says, return to me, my backsliding children, for I am married to you. I am married to you. And you see, a lot of people say now, but God has divorced Israel. Well, no. God did not divorce Israel. God hates divorce. And he says in Isaiah 50, where is your mother's get? It means, where is your mother's bill of divorcement? There is no get. If there is no get, there is no divorce, according to Jewish law. My sister went through a divorce, and she went through a civil divorce, but according to Jewish law, she could not remarry and have children in a new marriage without the get. The get makes the divorce final. She couldn't get the get. There is now an organization for Jewish women to get the get. Because if she doesn't get the get, she's an abandoned woman. Her husband can, they can be civilly divorced, and he can take off for Africa or wherever he wants. And according to Jewish law, if she remarries, she's in an adulterous relationship, and the children born of that relationship are mamzer. Illegitimate, they can only marry another mamzer in Israel. It's a terrible stigma. So my sister had to fight to get this get. She finally got the rabbis on his back, and the rabbis shook him, really, literally just shook him, and said, give her the get. Because she was already remarried and pregnant. So finally he had enough And he threw the get down. There it is.